Hi, Mario with Life Saving Systems, and I want to talk to you today about Strops. And particularly, I want to answer two questions that I get almost every week, and it's misunderstood. And I have to talk about both those questions at the same time because they're tied together. The first question is, why can't I buy a rescue strop, this 216 rescue strop, unless I'm in the military? Which is the reason for that is it doesn't have a crotch strap, and that becomes important later in this discussion. And the other question is, why can't I have a handle on my quick strap? And these things are tied together, all right? So I want to explain. The reason the 216 is available only to military because it was designed to pick up, and it says so right on here, for use on trained military personnel. And it says restricted to use by trained military personnel, and that gets confused as well. I'm trained military. I used to be in the military. I was in the Navy or Coast Guard, and so I will have the same training, so why can't my department buy this strop? And it's misunderstood. It's for use on trained military personnel. This is for picking up trained military personnel. A man overboard over a ship, an ejected pilot who's otherwise uninjured. And you know, we used it all the time in the Coast Guard for what's called SAD-POOs, sling augmented double pickups. And so the person using it the most should be, the person who would be in it, hanging from it, is a trained military personnel. And what that means about them is we know their condition, we know their fitness, we know their training, we know they're healthy, we know they're strong, we know they get physicals. And it's a pretty steady state individual who's trained in this thing's use, and they know how to use the gear. Having said that, when this gear is used, again, right on the graphic on the back, it shows you how to use the device and the chest strap. And I still see all the time in videos at training centers and in live use, the chest strap either not used at all or just tied directly across the chest here under the arms when it's meant to go around the arms and hold the arms down. And so this is available to military personnel. It's on contract with the U.S. government. We design it this way because that's the specifications for it's designed, and it's available only to trained military personnel. The handle on the back is part of that design. Otherwise, we don't like handles on the back. And the reason the handle on the back becomes an issue is almost without exception. And there's none that I know of, but I'm saying almost without exception because there's got to be one out there. That when someone falls from a strop, and it happened at Hurricane Katrina, it's happened since, it's happened before, a non-military user of questionable health and possibly overweight or fatigued or elderly or otherwise impaired will fall from the strop. When it happens, almost invariably, is at the door when the winch operator or hoist operator pulls on this handle. Because when that happens, it dynamically changes the shape and the loading characteristics on the victim who's in a weakened state and barely hanging on as it is, and that force is what moves it the last millimeter and the person falls from the strop. So almost without fail, they fall at the door when this handle is pulled on. And so most procedures have the winch operator reach around the victim and pull in for that reason, but these ideas get lost over time. So from a design perspective, this handle is there because the military contract calls for it, and it's for use on trained military personnel only. So when you ask me to buy this, and you're not in the military, you're operating at a municipal rescue service somewhere in the world, and I say, I'm sorry, I can't sell that to you. The reason's not because you're not trained military or you weren't trained in the military or that you don't know what you're doing. The reason is you're probably going to use it on civilians who are not trained military personnel. And another problem with these is you train in them all the time and you use them, and we use them on each other when we train, and therefore we know we can hold on to it, and you start getting the idea that our ability to hold on to a strop under the helicopter for a minute, minute and a half is everyone's ability. but put a 65-year-old overweight survivor in this thing, and you're going to find out how well they hang on, which is not very well at all. So, trained military personnel only. If you're not in the military, you're not working with trained military personnel as victims in the water. Therefore, I can't sell this to you. Now, we put crotch straps on every other strop we make, which are all quick strops. They're stiffened with some internal webbing to keep the loop open when you're trying to throw it around the survivor. But the quick strop goes, it jerks out, goes under the crotch of the survivor and clips back in to this ring here, right, and up to the hook. The reason we put a crotch strap on is trying for years, literally years, it's the only way that we found to make falling out of the strop impossible. And while falling is not probable, it can happen, it has happened, and the only way to stop it is by taking 10 seconds and putting the crotch strap on. And so we put a crotch strap and advocated its use on every other strop we have. Why can't you have a handle then? Well, one reason is if you use the crotch strap, if you deploy the crotch strap and use the strop accordingly, you have a handle. It's already there. I see units and operators, they'll sew a loop of webbing on here and use that as a handle. Again, we're training with each other. They don't deploy the crotch strap. If you have that handle available without the crotch strap employed, you will, on a long enough timeline, change the shape and the loading characteristics of the strop on a weakened civilian survivor, and they may fall. So it really is our belief that not employing the crotch strap, not having a crotch strap on the quick strap, any quick strap you use, it's a mistake. And so we always sell them with the crotch straps. We employ their use, and we don't put handles on the back of the strap. And we don't advocate or authorize or condone or think it's a good idea that you add one later. Now, but I do know it has a use. And so, and this is just a quick mock-up that I did this morning. I don't sew as well as everyone. But I understand the idea for a clear handle. So this will be higher, but in the future, when we make the 214 quick strap, this handle will be here. It'll be up here, sewn onto every device, so you have a more positive way to grip the patient once they get to the door, and you can pull them in, the survivor. So this is what this was not a bad idea. It's not available unless the strop's deployed, but you can have a handle. We heard you, we'll put one on, but we're gonna put it on the crotch strap so that it's only available if you deploy and use the crotch strap. So on the 214 SAP, which stands for single attachment point, we use a Talon hook so that once you go on the hook, you don't have to come off the hook at all. If you want to undo the strap to get around a patient or a victim, you can take it off of here, put it around the victim, feed it back through, not quite prepared, feed it back through up here and back into the Talon, and you've never come off the hook. So the Quick Strap SAP also likewise has a handle, but it only has a handle if you employ the seat for the crotch strap, and then there's the handle there. Once they get to the door, the winch operator can pull them into the cabin. So the last question about straps that we get often is on the 216. You'll notice that the way it's designed to be used, the padded part, the really soft part's on the outside of the webbing. So when you guys ride this thing up, you've got straight type 13 webbing against your ribs, and wouldn't it be nicer if the padding was on this side, the soft side? Sounds good in theory, but if you try and load, if you use it backwards and put the padded side towards you or on your survivor, there's a tendency to roll out. The compression of the foam and the tension on the back side causes this device to roll around on itself, and there's the risk of falling out. So that's why it's designed that way. If you have any questions about crotch straps or quick strops or strops, everything I talked about here today, I'm writing a post on the website about it that will include our discussions about the 216, the rescue strop, and why it's military only, these crotch straps, and the modifications that are allowed and not allowed to this gear, specifically as it relates to the handle on the back. We'll put a handle on the back for you. That's coming in the next round of these. In the meantime, if your unit has sewn a handle onto the back, that is when the falls happen. A weakened survivor at the door when the flight mechanic or the hoist operator pulls on the handle, that changes the loading on that strop, and that's when they go down. So I suggest you cut them off and just go ahead and get wet and reach around the victim and pull them in. That's the reason these things were designed the way they were. Again, any questions, you can write to us, give us a call at Life Saving Systems, and go to the website and read the article, which will be linked up down below. Thanks very much.